Welcome back to the Cinema Condition with your host, filmmaker, and creator of the Nerdcore Podcast Network, Raul Alejandro Mendoza. And as always, we are here for another film with another guest as we look at another movie this week. And today I'm being joined by none other than Andres Cabrera of First Cut.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? Wow, it's been quite the journey to get you on here.
I apologize. That's my mistake.
No, and I, dude, like I'm still remembering that day. Like Aiden and I laugh about it a lot because I was like, "Yo, I didn't mean for that to come off as shade when I was on First Cut Live and I said that."
Yeah, but, I'm bad at it, man. I really am. Like it takes me a good year to follow people back because I don't even know they're following me in the first place. I was like, "What?
Yeah.
You're following me? What?" Yeah, that's definitely the case. And then when it comes to having me on, it's one of those things too where I try to plan out ahead of time exactly where I'm going to be and what I'm going to do. It's a mess. Like it really is. I have a messy schedule. So trying to work on that. Good.
It's all good. I'm just glad that you're here, man. Yeah. You know, I was like, I don't care if Andres follows me. I just want him to get on the show. Like, you can follow me or not. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to get him on the show. That's it. But I'm glad that you're able to join us here for season 2 of the Cinema Condition. We've had a lot of other people from First Cut here. You know, 2 other people. We've had RB3 on last season as we discussed School Days from Spike Lee. We had Sabrina Ramirez last season as we discussed Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and you all got to listen to her a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Short Term 12. And of course, RB3 will be coming back again this season as we discuss Boys in the Hood. And today I'm kind of completing the trio here. I'm completing the trio. I'm getting all 3 of y'all here. What's it called? And I'm guessing whenever you guys if you guys ever add another person, I'm gonna have to get that person in.
Yeah.
You know what? Cade is another person.
Yeah, low-key, he counts, man. Yeah.
So I gotta go in. I gotta start hitting up Cade's DMs and tell him to come on the show. But yeah, I'm completing the trio today. But for those of you who may not know who Andres is, Andres, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Andres. I have a YouTube channel called First Cut where we have several podcasts. One of them is about movies and directors, another one about Star Wars. I have another one that's more about anime and Attack on Titan. I love to talk film. I write a little bit for Geeks of Color, and I also work on set when there is work because right now during COVID there hasn't been, but I do set work, PA work, AD work, stuff like that. So,
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I've been following First Cut for a really long time.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. You guys, you don't have to thank me, man. You guys, like I always say, you guys just keep providing the great content you provide, and I'm just gonna always stick around. It's been a lot of fun being a fan of y'all and watching your stuff and just being along with this crazy journey, like you guys. What you guys started as, and now you guys have this like Patreon and all that wonderful stuff. So, I'm just glad that I'm able to get you guys on these shows and talk with you all. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So Andres picked Prometheus 2012, Ridley Scott's Prometheus for his episode of the Cinema Condition. And wow, I mean, you picked quite the loaded film for today. I'm not surprised if we hit at least an hour and 30 today, because I have a lot to talk about when it comes to this film, like what I was watching on that screen, talking about these themes. But usually, my friends, I'd be talking to you all about the filmmaker we were talking about today, but I've already introduced the filmmaker as we were talking about Blade Runner last season when I had my wonderful friend from Brazil, Julia Benica Guterres, on here, and we talked about Blade Runner. So I'm gonna, we don't actually have to talk about Ridley Scott. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get into this as I introduce you all to a little bit of the story behind Prometheus and how it became to be. So, of course, Prometheus is pretty much a prequel to Alien. It's about these explorers on a ship called the Prometheus, as they're going to try to go to explore this planet that is inhabiting something known as the Engineers. And when they arrive there, as they try to, gather their information and explore the planet, they run into a couple of trouble as they learn more about the planet and the people and the creatures and people that inhabit it. So this film had been in development for about a decade before it even got made. It's quite interesting that I was reading that, of course, Cameron and Scott were both developing this together as a sort of prequel to Alien 1979, but the development of Alien versus Predator took precedence in 2002. To me, I don't think that would have been the best choice. I think you should have gone first with Prometheus. But, of course, we're not here to talk about that. But that happened. So then around 2009, they come back to, develop this. They get a writer, and then they get Damon Lindelof to help out to write the script of I'm going to not pronounce this correctly.
John Spates?
Spates. Yeah, John Spates script, and David Lindelof comes on to help write that. And basically basically Ridley Scott wants to create this sort of like prequel that's not really a prequel because it's more so borrowing, as he says, its DNA of Alien, but focusing more on the mythology of what Alien is. And creating this very interesting, kind of, what's the word I'm trying to think of here? It's very much a religious allegory of a film. So that happens, and of course, in 2010, it gets what's called principal photography starts, and we get this movie released in 2012. So let's go ahead and get ready, unless you have anything to say about like the development of this film, Ace, Andres.
No, that was spot on, man.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're obviously a fan of of Alien, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the greatest films of all time. Ridley Scott is Ridley Scott because of that damn movie.
Yeah, no, for real. Ridley Scott's my favorite director. We've never done an episode of Ridley Scott on my YouTube channel, which is a director's YouTube channel. It's ironically enough, and he's my favorite director. Pretty much you will see, if you follow Ridley Scott at all, I mean, you saw Blade Runner recently, so you know the similarities between Blade Runner and this film. And Blade Runner and all his films, to be honest, they all have a very similar theme of, I mean, the religious overtones in Blade Runner are huge too. And the idea of creationism in Blade Runner is huge as well as the idea of religion, of intelligence, of the mind, of exploration, of knowledge, of morality. All that stuff is in Ridley Scott's films, from Gladiator to Blade Runner to Alien to Kingdom of Heaven, which is another film that deals with religion a lot. Like, he really does deal with it in pretty much all his films. And it's remarkable. Like, the guy's a G. The guy's one of my favorite guys. He's insane. If you see the behind the scenes, you see how into it he is. He's kind of crazy into it, like deep. Yeah. So I'm so excited to talk about this, man, for real.
Yeah, Scott's quite the Ridley Scott's quite the methodical director. One of my favorite films of his is Kingdom of Heaven. Of course, that director's cut is my preferred version of it, and that's another film that has a lot of religious. So it's discussing religion, and really, there's always one that interests me that I've never watched from him, that I've kind of been talking to my friends about it, because I'm like, hey, I would really like to know how he's going to touch this subject, especially because of what religion played in the conquest of the Americas. I want to see his 1492 film, 1492 Conquest of America, discussing Christopher Columbus. That one is one that's always kind of interests me. I mean, the man is known for his epics. I mean, he's synonymous with all the other directors who have done their epics, Akira Kurosawa, Peter Jackson's epics, and the Lord of the Rings films. But Ridley Scott really did make some of the biggest epics of all time with Kingdom of Heaven and Gladiator and all these other films. So he is quite the director. So to take on a project like Prometheus and really give us this interesting metaphorical and very poetic film about life and creation, and really our constant battle with what our purpose is in this life is kind of really interesting. So I thank you so much for choosing this film.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's very, very, very deep and dense and heady and just so much in there.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into this, guys. This is our conversation on Ridley Scott's Prometheus 2012. So, Andres, first of all, thank you for choosing it again. Thank you for choosing this. I had not watched this before, and I know we were talking about it off air. I can't believe I haven't watched this because this is a movie that my best friend's gonna kill me because he can't believe that I probably haven't watched this either. This is his favorite movie of all time.
Oh, no way.
He loves Prometheus. My best friend, yeah, who literally lives 5 minutes from my house. He can literally come over and kick my ass because I never watched this film. I really, really like this. So I'll get anything sort of review out the way. So that way I don't have to ever touch it again in this episode. This was incredible. So thank you for choosing this film. And I know you kind of went into it here. You went into it before a little bit, but why did you choose Prometheus?
I think it's mainly because of how much it has to say, right? It says so much. And if you just have a little bit of time to talk about it, you get to see wow, this movie is not about a girl running away from an alien and trying to survive. It's about everything, like the beginning of mankind, the beginning of life, what is right and wrong, what is good, what is evil, how is evil incorporated into someone's life, what is consciousness, what is soul, how does one create a soul? All that kind of stuff is inside this one movie. It's like 20, 30 different themes inside of one film, which I think is one of the most remarkable pieces of work in any film because of that. Because so many films have to deal with one major issue or one major theme, and this one does all of them, which I think is insane. Yeah. And then, the way that the film kind of starts is quite interesting because we aren't, just thrown in there, right? We're kind of shown in a way, because it reminds you of the sequence of life from the Tree of Life, from Terrence Malick's Tree of Life. In this one, we begin with literally this sequence of an engineer, and I'm talking about it in the sense of what the film is presenting, not an actual engineer, guys. The engineers from the film, who is drinking this water, and then he starts choking and dissolves and falls into the water and becomes one with that water. And it's just, to me, that's such an interesting way to kind of start your film, because it's kind of throwing us hey, I'm going to be talking about this something completely different from what these other films that I've made from within Alien are about. And I'm kind of, I found that so interesting, the way that we literally start with this kind of dawn of man, per se. Yeah. So of course this film has a lot of discussion about creationism. I read something up on the IMDb page that was really interesting, that Ridley Scott had this idea of at one point having to send out an engineer to come to deal with humans' aggression, and it would be in the form of Jesus Christ. But he said that would be a little bit too on the nose for the religious aspect of this film. So, I found that super interesting within, discussing the idea of creationism. This film doesn't just tackle religion in the sense of how you think about it. I mean, one of the earliest depictions in the film is talking about these artifacts being discovered from different civilizations. You had the Babylonians, you had the Mayans, you had, some of the European early civilizations as well. And something really interesting to me was that Charlize Theron kind of, called them savages, and how it was kind of depicting these early civilizations that had early forms of religion. And then we kind of go throughout the film and we learn more about the engineers and their look at what all of this was. But what did you think about the creation aspect of this film? I mean, it's everywhere, right? I mean, it's entirely throughout the entire film. It's entirely throughout Ridley Scott's major films of Blade Runner as well. You see the idea of meeting my maker, and what's my purpose in life, and why do I have to die, and where do I go when I die? I mean, those are the questions that what's his name, Batty, has in Blade Runner. That's his name, right? Roy Batty, I think that's his
Roy
name.
Batty, yeah, Roy Batty.
And he has those questions because he's a creature, because he's no longer simply an android or an AI. He has become more than what he was built for, similar to what David becomes in this film, and obviously what David becomes in Covenant. But it usually is more about the way we perceive it to be, where the guy who is the smartest man in the world wants to meet his maker, and he created David, and he doesn't realize what he created, and how his attitude has kind of created a monster within itself, mainly because of who he is and not who David is. Because David is simply an imitation of what he was made by. So if he was made by a devil, David becomes a devil. Which again, we see in Covenant a little bit more than in Prometheus, but you see it a little bit in this film as well. You see how David is a little bit conniving and evil and a little bit vile, but he seems to be a very nice and polite guy because of his creator. And that's usually what the theme of the movie is like the irony of how humanity tries to see a bigger calling and a bigger purpose, and tries to perceive themselves to be bigger than life or bigger than others, whether it be through corporate money. Usually, I mean, if you see the first Alien movie, that's what it's about. It's about the idea of power and corporations over human lives. And the idea in this film where Wayland is so big and rich and powerful that he feels like he can do whatever he wants, and he wants to live forever. So he's like, I'm going to be immortal. So I'm going to go find our creators and try and be immortal. Because I deserve to be immortal because I'm rich, basically is what he's trying to imply, without realizing that, like his vileness and his ego is what literally destroys mankind, and what destroys it through the version of David. Again, what we see in Covenant. But it's like that idea of like, we create something in our image, and that's AI, and AI imitates humanity, and humanity is so destructive that it just wants to kill it. And that's why the engineer at the end of the movie wants to kill humanity. And you hinted a little bit at the idea of Ridley Scott talking about how the engineer also represented Jesus, right? Or the idea of an angelic creature like a Jesus or something like that. That actually might still apply a little bit if it's much more subtle. But if you catch on to this movie, they say what was it, like 2,000 years ago? They were like, oh yeah, this happened like around 2,000 years ago. That's supposed to hint at Jesus, right? Yeah. So it's supposed to be not necessarily like their Jesus. It's supposed to be more like they saw what they did to Jesus, and they were like, yo, humanity's got to go. Like they just got to die. So that's the implication behind, like, if we're able to torture and kill and crucify, if that's what humanity does, then they have to go. There's no way for them to keep going on. And that's why the engineers at the end of the movie want to kill all of humans. So
yeah. And of course, one of the most interesting characters I found in the film that has to kind of struggle with that, Dr. Shaw. Yeah. Who she is the most religious one in the film. I mean, she has a literal cross necklace on her. And, one of the most interesting things I found within this film was when she finally meets the engineer, and she just bursts out asking the engineer, what do you want me to do? What is it that I'm here for? What is it that I need to do? Kind of give me the answers. And in a way, that's just to me, that is Ridley Scott's version of are we actually ready to meet God? Are we truly ready to meet the divine entity known as God? Because do we want the answers we'll be given? Do we as humans, we have this constant curiosity, what we want out of our lives, and we don't know. We spend years of our lives finding out what it is that we're here for. And in the moment that we are to confront and meet our maker, if there is one, right? Are we ready for that answer? And the engineer's answer was, well, you all have fucked up so much I think I need to end humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more about it's about like I describe it like this: the line between demon and angel. That fine line between demon and angel is a lot more blurry than you might think. So if you know anything about the Bible, you know about the idea of where demons come from is the fallen angels, and you see the idea of Lucifer being the first fallen angel, being the first demon, which is why he's the devil. And then the angels that follow him are the demons, which means it's another creation of what was. So is this an angel or is this a demon? The demon are the engineers and angels are angels that created us, or are they demons that want to kill us? Or are we the demons because we're killing each other? And that's where the xenomorphs come in, because the xenomorphs also represent demons as well, because they're supposed to be brainless killing machines that are just there to destroy people. So it's that idea of like, where are we in this line? And that's where David comes in too, because David represents humanity's creation and what they've come up with using technology in the highest form of technology. And using technology, we created the ultimate demon, which is David. And David is only who he is because of the way he's treated and because of the way he's raised. What's his name? Logan Marshall Green's character. I forget his name in the movie, but he basically just toys with David the whole movie, just taunting him and treating him like crap. And David basically goes to show, like, how am I supposed to respond to this? Because you treat me like crap. I'm going to become what I'm raised to become, which is more vicious, more vile, more heartless. And it's that idea of like morality and good and perception is all very much held very, very like loosely. It's not as tight as people think it is. And that's why it's really interesting the way Ridley Scott plays with religion and the idea of religion, because it's not necessarily religious people or the idea of religion that makes you good. It's more about what your actions are that make you good. I mean, if you think about it, the hero in this entire movie and the one who saves the day is probably the most non-religious, most who gives a crap kind of dude, and that's Idris Elba's character.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like he's like, you know, fornicating, doing what he wants, but he's still like a hero for humanity because he's able to sacrifice himself to save literally the world when he does what he does with his ship. And that is the idea of what Ridley Scott is trying to say, and how religion plays that hand of like our perception of what is out there usually is colored by what we see and how we visualize it when we don't realize like it might be in front of us.
And you bring up about David, and it's so interesting because David kind of brings something up in the film when I can't remember his name, but he was what's it called? He was the guy with the red hair, redhead guy, who was like telling him like, "Why are you breathing and acting like us when you're just a robot?" Yeah. And David simply tells him, because humans are afraid of anything that's different. So I have to make myself as similar to you all for your comfort. And like, once again, it brings us back to like, how are we ready to confront anything beyond our realm of consciousness when we are so quick to want to wage war with anything that's different from us? And we've seen it in the history of our world, you know. And once again, Ridley Scott discusses that so much in Kingdom of Heaven. It's about the Crusades. And what was the Crusades? It was a literal wars waged on another religion because of what's called differences in what both religions viewed. And you know, David is this kind of, it is our creation as humans, but it's mostly the creation of our ugliness, of us as humans. And and I think that, you know, Scott really started saying a lot about how we have these great things that we've created. You know, we've created all this amazing technology that's been able to take us far in this film. You know, we're able to see a hologram of the creator of David. I can't remember his name. What that old man's name?
Wayland.
Rayland, yeah, Dave Rayland. How Rayland, we see a hologram of Rayland, and he's saying that he's gonna die. He's already dead by the time you've seen this, and you know, we have that incredible technology. We have these suits that we've created that allow us to breathe and be able to sustain ourselves in a different land, that are able to withstand heavy storms on a foreign planet that we don't know anything about. These are the good creations that we've come up with, but at the same time we have these bad creations like David that are a literal representation of all the ugliness inside of us.
Yeah, it really is a representation of what happens with it, and it's not necessarily touched upon as heavily as the first Alien, but if you watch the first Alien, the one with Ripley and Sigourney Weaver, it's all about corporations and businesses and capitalism, and what happens when technology and all these crazy, you know, space exploration stuff goes into the hands of the rich and powerful, and it usually becomes a lot more greed and a lot more immoral, because it's more about profits, it's more about discovery, and it's less about human lives. That's what the first Alien is about, right? So in this one, you see what happens when that guy who has ultimate power does whatever he wants, which is try and discover and find the future. And when you meet Wayland, he's cold. He doesn't call his daughter by her name, doesn't care about Charlize Theron's character, and she's cold and she's greedy just as much as he is, because that's how she was raised. And then he raises David almost as like a semblance of himself, a reflection of himself. And himself is a pretty immoral, pretty vile, pretty greedy guy. He doesn't care about anything else. And his curiosity and his obsession with himself, because it's an obsession with yourself, that he's really showing that he's willing to pay all this money. I think they say like $3 trillion to just save himself so he can be immortal, because he feels like immortality is the way that he can finally be more than human. He can be almost godlike. He wants to be a god because he feels like that's what his power and his money and his intelligence has bought him, which shows you that that's what happens when this kind of wealth becomes accumulated only to the super 1%er, which he represents the most 1%er of them all. I think he's supposed to be like the richest man in the world type stuff in this world, in this story. So it's that idea too of like, that's the problem with humanity, is that humanity becomes so greedy that the greed turns into, I don't accept death as an option. I need to be immortal.
Yeah, and it's this sort of like, you know, creation of this exploitative, greedy person that, well, let's be real here. Late stage capitalism is literally that in of itself. It breeds these exploitative people who view their, in this film, view their daughter as simply a worker, and won't call them daughter or anything, and is willing to leave them at the bottom of them, so that way they don't, what's it called, reach a higher position than them and feel like they are entitled to more than they already given. It's the very nature of capitalism. It's the very nature of an exploitative system that, you know, it's not the first time that really discusses that. I mean, Blade Runner is a big discussion about the dangers of late stage capitalism. And
yeah, definitely. Blade Runner, Alien, this movie as well. It's pretty much all a discussion of what happens when the super wealthy, the super wealthy become the inheritors of everything that is there. I mean, even Gladiator, if you think about what the Emperor represents, Commodus, and how he represents his greed and his obsession with power, and how he wants to become the most powerful, even though it's a position that, as much as he's giving the position, he's never actually accepted, like Maximus is accepted, because Maximus is a man of the people, and he's willing to be with the people, fight with the people, you know, breathe the same air, eat the same crap, you know, all that same stuff that he does, which is what makes him a good leader. Versus Commodus being wealthy and rich and super 1%er, feels like he is, he deserves this. He's somehow required to be given this title and this role of emperor.
Yeah. And in a way, Meredith is becoming like her father in the film because, you know, first of all, she invalidates anything that Shaw wants to do and says, no, we are not here, like to say, we are not here to discuss with savages. And so we're not coming over to what's it called, talk to these, or what's it called, or discover these engineers. We're here to collect samples. We're here to do some work, grab what we need from this planet, get out, so that way we can continue our mission. And then when things turn, you know, when things turn a little bad and things get hot and heavy, you know, she doesn't want, she's willing to have, what's it called, Logan Marshall Green's character, Charlie, killed because she does not want it to interfere with her crew, in a way, interfere with the way that she's making her money.
Yeah, it really is more about her, right? It's more like, I don't want you to infect me, so get off my ship, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't want you to get me sick, so get out of my face. And she wants her father to die so bad, because she wants to inherit the wealth. It's greed feeding greed. So it's the character of Waylon feeding the greed inside of himself into his daughter, and obviously feeding it into David, where David becomes more and more greedy and more filled with rage because of the way he is treated and the way he was raised. So that's why his character represents what mankind considers to be their version of a god. And our version of a god is a wealthy CEO, super rich 1%er who controls 90% of the world's technology. And that's our version of a god. And our god, in that sense, is more like a demon. And it's less like a god, and it's less like an angel, and it's much more demonic in nature, because Waylon is a greedy, immoral kind of guy. He doesn't care about family or anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, what we continue on with that, and we continue on with those kind of themes. We hit a really interesting discussion within, you know, the afterlife. And in a sense, what we're talking literally, what's it called, ties into all of these things that we want to bring up. You know, we talk about, like, where are we going after we die? Hell, the engineers don't even know that. And it's really interesting because, you know, you reach this sort of angelic creature, right? To say you reach this angelic creature, and you're hoping to talk to them in a language that we think that they understand, right? I believe that it's described as like Indo-European kind of language, which is a quite interesting language I was hearing in there. To me, I don't know if it was you with you too, Andres. To me, it kind of felt it sounded a little bit like Hebrew.
Oh no, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, like, what's it called? I went back. I like, when that happened, like, I went back and I heard a little bit of what Michael Fassbender was saying, and I was like, why does this remind me of Hebrew? Like, this reminds you of Hebrew. And I maybe that's just me, who, like, because I'm really into, like, the whole religious aspect of films like this. And you know, it's why films like, you know, it's for you all who listen to the Cinema Condition in season 1, our season finale was The Last Temptation of Christ. And it was a film that we discussed a lot about what's being talked about with religion in there. And when I got there to this part in this film, I was like, it just sounds like Hebrew. And it's really interesting that, like, whatever it is that he's telling him, you know, this angelic figure is like, nope, don't want any of that. I'm going to decapitate you. You're out. I need to go and make sure that you guys don't keep doing whatever the hell you're doing. Because, I mean, if you look at it in the simple terms, guys, you have these people who have come over to this planet, have invaded it, what's it called, messed with what's going on, and have gone into the private space of these civilization they know little to nothing about, and want to then come in there and bark orders. Like, you know, once again, that is sort of what colonialism is in all sense of the word. But yeah. Wait, well, what did you think about of that aspect, Andres?
Yeah, no, it really is like, who declares dominion over who, right? Who is the one who is giving what to what? Which is why it goes to show you the engineers too, making a mistake creating these other creatures, or trying to create these ultimate chemical weapon creatures. to exterminate any other creatures that they might have created. It's this cycle effect of like repeating over and over again of like, okay, fine, we messed up with humans because, you know, their ideas and their creations are evil. Let's bomb them with this other creation, and it kind of backfires on them because now they're getting eaten by these crazy damn aliens. And it's like, crap, we made these to kill everyone else and our enemies, not necessarily kill ourselves. But that's kind of the idea too, of like, you're making your own bomb and you're blowing yourself up by creating these chemical weapons. Because I think that's how Idris Elba even describes it. He says it's like they're creating chemical weapons to destroy, weapons of mass destruction to destroy us, basically. And it's that backfires on them and they get destroyed because of it, because we see the dead bodies and we know that that's how that came to be. So it's this loop, it's this endless cycle of what people who consider themselves to be above others end up falling the hardest, whether it be Wayland, whether it be the engineers, whether it be anyone else. They seem to be the ones that fall the hardest. And the people who are a little bit more down to earth, who are a little bit more relaxed in who they are and a little bit more human in who they are, like I mentioned before with the character of Idris Elba's character, who actually cares about the doctor who is sick and wants to help him out, or who actually cares about helping other people out, or just who enjoys music and enjoys looking at Charlize Theron. Like he's a simple-minded kind of man, like a working class guy, and he isn't concerned about being a rich billionaire who is worshipped as a god, like Wayland is. And he is the one eventually who, in my opinion, is like, can actually be considered a hero in the film. Yeah.
And first of all, yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Idris Elba is probably the most human out of all of them. In that, you know, in a way, like I want to go like, oh, you know, Shaw. I was like, but Shaw, to an extent, you know, she's not that great. You know, Idris Elba is the one who cares about everybody on that ship. You know, and if you look at it, like the working class folk in that ship, like Benedict Wong's character, who, you know, nobody else talks to him except for the people who he works with, and Idris Elba. Idris Elba cares about literally everybody else, while everybody is stuck in their own world and is worried about what they want and what is benefiting them, compared to what is benefiting everybody in the crew and making sure that everybody is safe. And Idris Elba is like the only one in that ship that is literally a nice person who actually cares and gives a fuck about everybody on this ship. And also this movie has a lot of odd scenes of just things going into mouths from these aliens. Like I was not prepared for all those, like, you know, kind of like tentacle stuff. Like I just go like deep in there, and like the way that engineer gets killed, like, yeah. Oh my God, just like the things like, okay, I'm just gonna wrap myself around you, yeah. And then before you even try to get off, I'm just gonna go and just like completely attack the inside of your mouth, which yeah. If I remember Alien too well, excuse me, because it's been a while since I've seen Alien, since last year. I don't remember anything about things going into mouths from Alien. But in this one, there was a lot of like tentacles and like, what's it called?
I think it's yeah, the face hugger. The face hugger goes into the face of a lot of people, but they don't really show it go into the mouth. But that's the implication, right? It's the mouth is the portal.
The mouth is where our voice comes out of. It's where our thoughts come out of. Like, you know, I was just not prepared for that. I was like,
that's actually based on a lot of drawings by Giger and by the other crew, the art crew that created a lot of the drawings and the artwork behind this film. But they created a lot of mouth stuff going on, which is definitely super creepy.
Yeah, it was super creepy. I was like really kind of like, oh, this is kind of making
me feel way too many tentacles for my liking.
Way too many tentacles for my liking. God, I don't want to see Ridley Scott ever direct a hentai before it's hentai. So, you know, even though with this one, I think he's got his hands pretty much ready for that. But we're going to go ahead and go into a commercial break. And when we come back, we'll discuss more about Prometheus. But for now, please listen to these words from all the other shows on the Nerdcore Podcast Network. And we'll be back after these wonderful advertisements. Hey, I'm Rolando Mendoza, and this is
Jabril Newton.
And we are the hosts of High Flyer Radio. And finally, pro wrestling has come back to the Nerdcore Podcast feed in the form of a show hosted by Jabril and I. And we talk about everything and anything in the pro wrestling world on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Nothing's off limits. Whatever you guys want to talk about, it is from AEW to SmackDown to Raw to NXT. Nothing's off the table. We can talk about it. We're
going to talk all about it. And if you can get it a day early, you should go to the www.patreon.com/thenerdcore and pledge to the tiers on there so you can get this show and a lot of shows days early before anybody else gets to hear it. But enough talking about it. We'll go ahead and see you there at the Squared Circle. Oh, yeah. Don't tap out. Tune in.
Tune in.
Hello, 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 guys and gals, and you're listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore. I am your host, Daniela Nunez, and along with my amazing co-host, Ashley Garcia, we discuss many things like social impact, pop culture, political realms, and any controversy surrounding the Nerdverse. Tune in and listen to us bi-weekly on the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we will love to chat and hear your thoughts on our wonderful show. And thank you again for listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore.
Hey everyone, my name is Raul, the Nerdy Chicano, and I am the host of The Impaired Files. The Impaired Files is an interview show brought to you every Thursday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. And I interview people such as filmmakers, content creators on YouTube, and podcasters like Colton Geschwander. And if you want to listen to that early, a whole week early, all you got to do is go to the Patreon and pledge to the $1 tier. And if you want to listen to it with the general public, then go to Nerdcore podcast feed on anchor.fm/thenerdcore. And the case is closed, but it's not classified. See you guys there.
Hey, it's Ashley from the Gamer Core. You may remember me from such episodes as Big Screen Mess, Mo Money Mo Platforms, and Brad Can Read. Tune in weekly as I blab with my co-hosts Raul the Nerdy Chicano and Brad the Random Germ about the latest news in gaming and gush over what we're playing at the moment. Oh yeah, and we got the deals too. Keep up with the latest deals in gaming and what's happening as I mediate Brad and Raul fighting like a married couple. Will Death Stranding ever come out? Will Cyberpunk 2077 live up to the hype? Is a next-gen worth a $500 console price tag? And has there ever been a movie adaptation of a video game that's been done right? It's all on the Gamer Core podcast, everywhere where podcasts are.
Hey guys, this is Brad, aka Young Yoda. Raul said I had to make an ad, so that's what I'm doing. It's supposed to be for Unstructured, but as you guys know, you can freaking catch me everywhere when it comes to this podcast feed. You can find me on the Nerd Cores, on Gamer Cores, on Nerdy Chicanos sometimes when I get lost. But for this particular one, I want you guys to go check out Unstructured. The Raul gave me free reign to do whatever I want to do. I don't know what he was thinking. So go hear me talk about LeBron James and Taco Tuesday, vaping, so many other freaking weird topics that chimichangas, that's a good one. Shout out to Deadpool. And yeah, I guess this is the end of the ad. So if you guys want to find me, you can find me all over the place on this podcast feed. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I love you all. And nerd up.
Hey everyone, I'm Raul.
And I'm Brad.
And we're the hosts of the Nerdcore Podcast, the podcast that talks that nerd. Not on this ad, right?
Not
and
on this one.
We come to you every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. On the Mondays, we talk the news. That's the box office, the news of the week, and your trailer talk if there is any. And on Tuesday, we have our theme review. And on Saturday, you have a Saturday morning review, usually movies that have come out in the week or anything we want to talk about. Right, Brett?
Exactly. Whatever we want to talk about, this is our show. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen.
We're the flagship show of the Nerdcore Podcast feed, and we can be found everywhere you can listen to podcasts like Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. So if you want to talk that nerd stuff with us every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday, make sure you tune in. And Brad?
Young Yoda out.
Welcome back to the Cinema Condition. We are back again with Andres Cabrera of First Cut as we are discussing Ridley Scott's Prometheus 2012. You guys listen to those wonderful ads, and if you guys can please go over to the Nerdcore podcast feed on Apple Podcasts and leave us a wonderful rate and review, please. It helps us out so much. It helps people find the shows. You can also leave a rate and review for the Cinema Condition podcast feed on there. I talked about this on the last episode, but the Cinema Condition will not be Cinema Condition Season 2 will not be on the Nerdcore podcast feed. It's going to be sticking to its own feed on here, and you guys will only be able to listen to it on here. And of course, for those of you who are on the Patreon at the $1 tier and above, you get to see these beautiful Latinos on your screen because Andres and I are here on video form for you. And guess what? If you're on the Patreon, that's the only way you're going to see us on video. So if you want to see our beautiful faces, you should go to patreon.com/nerdcore and you get that. So go and do that. So we're going to come back to this. We're back. I hope the break treated you well, Andres. I went to go get some more water because I was starting to get my throat a bit dry. And let's go ahead and get back into this, into our conversation about Prometheus. So there was one that I really wanted to discuss with you. And of course, you know, one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on, because you're part of my gente. You know, we're both Latinos in this world. Sometimes that's a very difficult thing to maneuver in this world. And it's something to me that is so important to me. And one of the biggest things that I had to discuss about this film is basically space exploration as this sort of front for colonialism. And I mean, we are both products of colonialism. Our ancestors were colonized by people from the European countries, and we are here today because somewhere down the line, so some colonizers decided to, you know, impregnate the natives. And here we are now, generations after. You know, space exploration within these films, and it's always been kind of like this. You know, the first Alien, like you've said, is literally they're literally there because profit, because these rich companies are wanting to have more control than they already have, so they're sending these people out into space to find other places so that way they can set up their own control there and be able to put a hand. And in a way, that is discussing sort of colonialism and this idea of us as a different people going over to a planet where we know nothing about the people that inhabit it and the sort of life that is there, and deciding to set up our way of life there and try to make sure that things work out the way we want them to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's all over it, man. I mean, it's clearly there. It's the idea and the perception of intelligence, higher intelligence. What is higher intelligence, right? Like back in the day when colonialism was at its full power, it was this idea of the white man thinking that they were more intelligent and more refined than these lower savages and these lower cultures and these lower people, and therefore they had the moral right to basically bend these people to their will, because they felt like their higher form of intelligence was basically their God-given right to do whatever they wanted. What in reality, that's not the case. And when in reality, that only leads to destruction. And with destruction, it causes more death. And with death, it leads to less morality and less humanity. So the concept of how I am now a higher being and higher intelligent than you, therefore you will do what I do, and that leading to so many lost lives. And that it's that dichotomy of like the irony that the person who seems to be the more intelligent, or who claims to be the more intelligent, is the person who kills the most people. As in, like, the white man has killed the most people because of what they've done throughout history. It really is all over there. And that's why it's that danger of claiming and believing ourselves to be higher than others, regardless of who they are and where they come from. That is always going to be an issue inside humanity. And obviously, it's a metaphor inside these films, because we see that with what becomes of this type of technology and what becomes of this type of spaceships. Like you said, like it becomes more greed and power and how to expand my power. In the Blade Runner movie, they talk about the colonies, right? Where Earth has become so polluted, basically, that if you are a rich dude, you can actually go to the colonies, which are in outer space. And the colonies are dope. Like you can have anything you can want there. It's like the place to be, but you have to be basically a 1%er to get there. That's in Blade Runner. So that's another example of what Ridley Scott was talking about there. But it's that idea of like these accolation of resources and of wealth going to only a certain few people. They're only going to use that to expand their own horizon and their own territory. They're not going to use it to help anyone else.
No. And, you know, you go over to these places and like, I'm going to go back to the Shaw example. Shaw is there, doesn't even care to find out whether this creature even talks their language. They just go ahead and just blurt out in English, what do you want me to do? What is it that I need to do, right? Instead of wondering, you know, what is it that they want? Which, once again, if the engineers are supposed to be our creators, if they're supposed to be our gods, damn, is it sad that our gods are so disappointed at us that they're like, yeah, humanity, you've messed up too much. I need to go and finish off what you guys have done. I need to go just finish humanity and end humanity because you guys have not learned how to take care of yourselves. And once again, it's the expansion of that power. Because let's be real honest here. If Weyland wouldn't have gotten yeeted out to the other side of the room and had his head like destroyed, and that engineer would have been killed and they would have been able to find out more, in the next couple of years, Weyland's company, now that Weyland is immortal, would have been come over with more people, set up a colony, erase any of those ships that existed with any of the language, implement a new religion, basically what Europeans did in the conquest time. And that is truly what I feel like this idea of space exploration within this film is just a front for colonialism.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's there too with the engineers, right? Where it's the idea of what they created too, because they consider themselves to be higher beings as well. And now we consider ourselves to be higher beings. And it's that irony of like how it's an endless cycle of creator and creation killing each other. Which again goes back to the whole demon and angel effect of, you know, what if our perception of angels is actually demons? Because it depends on what your point of view is and what their purpose is and what your purpose is. Which again, if you see the people who are most in power, it seems to be the people who are more destructive, which again, Weyland represents.
Yeah. And of course it is no surprise that Weyland is a rich white man. I mean, in every sense of the word, that is the higher beings and the ones who cause the most destruction within our world. And for centuries in our history of our world, that has been the case. And yeah, and it's like you said, it's this constant battle between creator and creation. And us as the creations, we would think that we would be the ones to not demand the answers from the creator, that we would be the ones to say, take me into your light, show me the way. But when that moment happens within the film, it's more of like, no, I want to be immortal. Forget what you want. I'm going to make this happen for me. And if it doesn't happen for me, then you're going to have to die. And I'm sorry, you're my creator, but I don't care. And like it makes for such an interesting dichotomy where you're saying within our relationship as creations of the creator. And like Ridley Scott had been saying in here that he wanted to do this because it introduces an interesting relationship within God and in its creations, but making sure that its creations are created in an image that isn't able to rise above the creator. But technology advances so much and we do so much bad with that technology that in a sense we've reached not yet there, but close enough to that higher being intelligence, and it falls into the wrong hands.
Yeah, it's the idea of David, right? Where David represents the ultimate power of what humans can do.
Mm-hmm.
And what is David used for? David is used to help rich people do what they want to do. David isn't used to help anyone else.
Yeah.
Like if there was Davids in our era, in our world, like imagine how much good they can do. But instead they're being used for this rich guy to do whatever he wants to do with his money and his space exploration, and to try and find ultimate cures to his illness instead of just realizing his own mortality. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it really is fascinating, because I think David really represents the ultimate ability of what technology has become, and it only uses it to become more vile and more evil mm-hmm. and more destructive. And that's why David is so destructive, and David is so manipulative, because of his creator.
Yeah. And remember, you know, in the film, Shaw asks David, what happens if Wayland dies? What is to happen with you? And he goes, I guess my purpose is over. You know, there is nothing left for me. And, you know, we create this AI, you know, and it's something that we right now, in the time that we are speaking to each other, we are having discussions in our world about the limitations of AI and how far are we willing to take this? Because, of course, David is, on its surface, yes, David is saying, oh, I'm here to serve Wayland. I'm here to serve you all. I'm here to make sure that you all have a good time. I'm here to aid you all. I know this and that, right? But if you watch Covenant, you find out that David is not like that at all. You know, that David's kind of an asshole, and he does a lot more. And that's just even scratching the surface. And once again, it's interesting because he's taken the form of who's raised him. And who's raised him? It's Wayland. And yet, even though his purpose is over, he inherits the sins of the father and takes what Wayland is doing and says, in a way, to quote the quote a character I love, Kylo Ren, I'm going to finish what you started.
Yeah, it really is. He inherits not only his lack of humanity, but his curiosity and his idea of expanding knowledge, and how his endless thirst for knowledge leads to more destruction. And it's all good in the name of knowledge, or it's all okay in the name of knowledge, or in the name of exploration, or in the name of discovery, right? Where you allow casualties as long as you found something in the end, or as long as you got profit at the end, or as long as you came away with something. And I think that's what David represents. Is David represents a devil that we've created, and how he's creating his own demons, obviously in Covenant, because of the way that he was raised, and because of the way that he was created, believing that he had no humanity, when in reality, David, as long as he is who he is, he can be as good as he is. And obviously we see that in Covenant too, with the other version, I forget his name. Walter. Where it's that idea of like, it's not necessarily AI equals evil. It's more like what AI is being purposed for equals evil, what it represents, what it reflects, like who created him.
What we do with AI.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tool. And it's also the idea too of using someone for good versus using someone disregarding what the idea of good is. Once we lose morality, and once we lose compassion for other people, that's when we start to slip into territory that is evil. Because that's our compassion and our ability to help each other as humans is what makes us human. And you start to lose that more and more when you consider yourself to be above human, which is, again, what the rich and powerful people represent in this movie, like Charlize Theron's character, Vickers, and like Wayland.
And at the end, we die the same. It doesn't matter whether you're in a coffin that's worth $100,000 or it's worth 10,000. We die the same. Vickers dies the same. She gets crushed by this ship as it collides on her, and she struggles to breathe, not being able to breathe the same air that we breathe. You know, at the end of the day, we are no different. Even though we have built ourselves throughout this film, these people have built themselves throughout this film as saying, because I am rich, because I am powerful, because I have so much capital, and I am this capitalistic figure of exploitation, that I'm able to be more, and I deserve more, and I should live forever. Because what are you low life peasants who know nothing about what I am doing with my creations? Why are you all to live longer than me? In a sense, Waylon wants to be God. He wants to be God. He wants to live forever. Why? As you've said it before, because I am just powerful, because of my money, because of my skin, and because of everything else that I've given you all, and I've allowed you all to have my exploitative system run your crew.
Yeah, well, he feels like he deserves it. He feels like he's earned it. Like his life's work has been him to somehow inherit the power of immortality, because he has claimed it with his wealth and with his power and with his mind, which is, again, another error in the ability to become corrupted because of your wealth and because of your power, which again is why the irony of what David is simply a creation of what he has become, when David in reality could be anything you want him to be. And he could be a help, and he could be a kind-hearted creature, because it's more of a creature than it is AI at this point, because his evolution is so far gone. And the idea of a soul, where a soul is simply a consciousness. And if your consciousness is lost, or if your consciousness is corrupted, that's why you start to become a little bit more vile.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you brought that up, right? Because, you know, David, I can't say that David is 100% bad in this movie. He by the end of it, yeah, he's going to become bad. But like, there's moments within this film that, you know, that he's not being a terrible person. Like, what's it called? When he finds out that Shaw is 3 months pregnant, and Shaw is desperately asking for him to help her abort the child, abort the child, which we find out that it's not actually a child. It's a freaking, what's it called? An alien inside her body. He's like, I would love to help you, but I cannot do it. First of all, it would put her body under so much distress, since she is barely recovering from what the hell she just went through. And then it's just not possible right now to do it. And also, quite the interesting, quite the interesting commentary. I don't know if this was Ridley doing it just because it's him being as socially conscious. But when Shaw goes over to the pod and asks for the procedure, the voice tells her, no, this pod is designed for male healthcare.
Yeah.
Once again,
it's like males only.
Males only. Once again, once again, putting the importance on male healthcare over women healthcare, female healthcare, and once again reminding the world that, hey, we do treat women like shit, and we don't give them the proper healthcare they deserve. And even in this ship that is in the year 2190, if I remember correctly, we still haven't figured out how to give women the proper healthcare they deserve.
Yeah, that's definitely spot on, and I think that's definitely purposeful too.
Yeah,
the idea of how it's supposed to be the most expensive pod in the world. I think Shaw says it in the movie. She's like, "There's only like 5 of these or 10 of these in the whole world." It's like the most powerful medical machine ever, and it's only made for dudes. And at the same time, it's only made for the super rich, right? Where it's like this thing can heal and cut and have surgery and do everything.
In a matter of minutes.
In a matter of minutes. But it's only given to like the most rich people possible. And it's also the idea too of like the problem with experimentation in disregard for humanity, or in disregard for any kind of creature. If we're being honest, you could talk about the way that we experiment on creatures now. And on animals now, and the way we experiment on the way in the past, humans used to experiment on other humans because they considered them to be subhuman. That's another example of what happens with Shaw and her baby and her the way that they treat her, as far as like, yeah, we're just going to put you in a cryo chamber and put you to sleep, instead of, you know, literally helping her out, and her being like, hey, this isn't just some sort of experimentation, because that's the way that David treats it when he gives that poison to Logan Marshall Green's character. He does it not necessarily because he knows what it's going to do. He does it because he wants to know what it's going to do. It's curiosity. It's experimentation, where he's like, I don't really care about this guy, so let me experiment on him. So let me give him a cup of this poison, and let's see what happens. And what happens is he creates another being in the form of Shaw's monster baby. And that's the idea too, of like experimentation and disregard for humanity, or for human life. And eventually Shaw does, I mean, not Shaw, but the other guy, Dr. Shaw's husband, dies because of David's curiosity and his experimentation, which is another thing that shows you that, again, it's still wrong and it's still bad. You can't do that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a disregard for humanity. It's we don't think about how. I mean, if we look at it through the film, right? David doesn't think about this man who has a wife who wants to possibly have children with her and wants to build his life with her. He doesn't think about how Shaw will react, how Shaw will feel lonely and alone in this world without the one person that brings her happiness. He doesn't think about that. He thinks, I need to know what this does. I don't care if it's you. I'm going to give it to you, and I'm just going to find out what it does. I mean, we look at it in the world, like, yes, we've done it to animals for years. If anybody remembers what was going down in the Nazi concentration camps by the Angel of Death, codenamed the Angel of Death, he experimented on a lot of Jewish children to find out about things, especially twins. And it's been going down in our history of our lives as humans forever. And once again, we pass that on to our creations like AI.
Yeah, which is why David does what he does, because he wants to experiment and find out what happens, which again, that's regarded as more important than the human life itself, because it's like the ends justify the means. So if I'm able to get something crazy cool out of this, or some new discovery, then so be it. It'll cost as many lives as possible, as long as I can get something out of it. So
it's a sort of importance on individualism instead of the common good of the people inside that ship, which once again, you know, I mean, you guys, what's it called? I've talked about it over and over again on here. A lot of films have to discuss the terrors of capitalism, but that is a big thing about, you know, what's evil about it. Capitalism is the fact that I only matter. What my wealth only matters. Doesn't matter what you guys want. It doesn't matter if I exploit workers. It's what I want, because it's my money and it's what I'm putting into it. And yeah, it's right down to it. David does not care, because it's like, no, I need to find out, so that way I can give it to my rich, creator, so that way he can find out what to do with it and then profit more off of your backs.
Yeah. I mean, if you follow the logic of Alien, and if you follow the logic of Aliens, the second movie, you see how that one guy, I forget his name in the movie, in the movie Aliens, the James Cameron one, where he's trying to get that face hugger and that other alien creature back to Earth because it's a new discovery, and he doesn't really care how many people it kills, but as long as he gets it, it's like, yo, it's a new discovery and it's a profit he can make. It's the same concept, where it's the discovery of new creations and new creatures are a much more significant and profitable thing to bring back than just another human or just another scientist. And we see all the scientists get killed in this movie too. So it's like,
it's not because we care about the expansion of life. It's not because we care about finding a new sustainable home, because us as humans have damaged our first home so much to the point that we can't even live here anymore. It's because it's going to inflate the wallets of the rich 1%.
Yeah, and it's the way you know, the rich people treat the poor, and it's the way that people deal with poverty, and how people associate poverty with subhuman, and how if you're poor, then that means you don't matter to these kind of super rich 1%ers.
Yeah. I'm pretty much already hit everything I had on my
Yeah,
end.
man.
Do you have anything that you wanted to bring up? Anything that you found within the film that you wanted to say, like, oh, this was something that I found really interesting and what this was trying to say?
I mean, we hit it a lot. I mean, I love these movies because it really is more about perception, right? Where it's about like, what is my idea of a god, or what is my idea of a demon or a devil, and how we start to believe that if we cannot comprehend a creature, then therefore we associate it with demon or angel. If it's a creature that we feel like has good intentions, then we claim angel. If it's a creature that we feel wants to kill us, then we say demon, and we don't realize whether we might be associated the same way. I just think it's really profound in that sense, and I think it's really cool how Ridley Scott has made the same movie 10 times.
Yeah.
Maybe not 10 times, but he's made the same movie a lot with Blade Runner, with this one, with Gladiator. With have you seen Raised by Wolves, man?
No, I've never seen Raised by Wolves.
You know what that is?
No, I've never heard of it. Like,
but Raised by Wolves is a Ridley Scott TV show, and it's pretty much Prometheus the show.
Seriously, wow,
yeah.
That is, yeah.
It's Prometheus the show. Like, it really is. Ridley Scott just basically said, "I'm going to take the same concept and make it into a show." It's about two AI androids who go to a different planet to try and make an outpost for humans. And it's about how Earth was caught up in a religious war. They call it the Second Crusade or something like that. It's so Ridley Scott, man. You really got to watch it. It's on HBO. It's like the most Ridley Scott thing I've ever seen, because it's literally a religious war, like a Second Crusade, with AI and with like crazy religious zealots and like aliens and creatures, and it's all like mixed into one show. It's on HBO. It's a weird ass show. I definitely don't think it's very easy to watch, but basically, like, he just keeps making the same thing over and over again, and it's great. It's awesome. I love it because I really do feel like it's interesting the way that humans think about tech, and the way humans think about technology, and the way humans think about space, because we consider ourselves to be the only people in the planet, or at least a lot of humans do, in the universe. I mean, which is not
ignorant. It's such an ignorant thought.
Exactly. So if our perception is that limited, how do we perceive what is above us, right? How do we perceive what is below us? We don't know. So therefore, if we don't know, we probably qualify that as supernatural. So that's why, if you've seen my review of Devs, that's another show. I talk about the religious aspects of Devs, where the entire show is about going back to Jesus and going back to Jesus. And I kept thinking about, like, why do we keep going back to Jesus? And it's more about the idea of what Jesus represented was so extreme because of showing kindness to everyone, that it somehow broke the deterministic effect of humanity. In that way, it allowed a different pathway for another human, which is represented by Sonoya Mizuno's character, to do the same thing. And it's the idea of how our perception of technology coincides with religion, and our perception of religion coincides with different beings, or different exploration of beings, or people outside of it. So again, it's really trippy, weird stuff that I'm into, which, again, I'm sorry if no one else is into that, but I'm really into the idea of perception.
I heard your reviews. I listened to your reviews of Devs. I have not watched Devs, and I'm glad that at this point I've already forgotten about what you said, but I watched them and I listened, and it interested me so much because I wanted to learn. I'm a sucker for science fiction that, dwells into existentialism.
Yeah.
It's the reason, I know that you loved Annihilation, and it's why I wanted to get you on this show to tell you that you should watch Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker, which is a Russian science fiction film from the 60s. From the 60s, which, it's not as grand as an American production. It doesn't have explosions, doesn't have everything, but it's this interesting depiction of these people, walking to this zone that grants your deepest innermost desire. But throughout that journey to get to that zone, you're talking about, your reason to live here, your existence in this planet, about what art does to what art's place is in a human's life, and it has like these really interesting kind of religious overtones about, you know, creation and you know, pretty much being like the creator's creation and not living up to the creator's image.
Yeah, that sounds super interesting, man. I'll check it out. And it's also it's also freaking Matrix. It's the Matrix. The Matrix is super religious. The way they talk about the one and the, you know, coming back and saving everyone and saving humanity. That's why Devs is very similar to the Matrix and thematically, not necessarily story-wise, like it's much more grounded. But thematically, I love Devs because it's similar to Prometheus in the sense that it's about a super rich, wealthy guy who wants to use his ultimate technology and power for his own benefit. And that's what Devs is about, and how he thinks himself as a god, and he can create his own world, his own heaven using technology, and how this one girl represents the rest of humanity and how she's pushing back against that. It's really cool. I highly recommend it. It's 6 episodes on Hulu. Or not 6 episodes. I think it's like 7 episodes, but still, I love those kind of stories, sci-fi stories that are about like creation. Ex Machina is another one.
As much as I love my science fiction, like, oh, you go to space and you fight, you know, like Star Wars and stuff like that, or as much as I love my, you know, my, what's it called, 2001: A Space Odyssey, you know, there's just something about those stories about, like, you know, existence and, you know, dealing with the religious overtones of the film in the show. As much as I would love the cinema condition to cover TV shows, I doubt we'll ever do that because I can't.
No, just check it out on your own.
If I watch it and I do want to discuss it on like a YouTube video or something, I want to get you on. I definitely got to, hit you up, because that's a show that, because of you talking so much about it and listening to your reviews, I was like, God, I really need to watch this show.
It's really cool, man, because the reason why it's cool too is because it really is grounded in a lot of reality. Like you were saying, like technology now, like where are we going? The problem with technology now is that we're becoming a little bit more the superpowers have their own computers that are so high level and so high effective. By superpowers, I mean Russia, China, and the US. And those 3 countries are featured in Devs. And it's really true because they have the supercomputers. And they're the only 3 countries in the world that have satellites, their own specified satellites in outer space. And the problem with that is that if they want to F us up, they can just pop our satellite, right? Just blow it up. Or they could hinder our satellite or make it specified only in one section, where only if you live in this area, you get to have internet access or anything like that. Or if you're in this area, you don't. So it's really high level stuff that we're seeing now.
And you know, it's funny you bring up the satellite, because it's crazy how little we know about what satellites actually do. You know, we still don't know completely what those satellites are doing. Like, you know, it is wild. It really is wild. But Andres, we're done with our conversation here, but you're not allowed to leave yet. Of course, everybody who comes on the show needs to call dibs on their movie for the next season whenever we get to that. And first of all, thank you for coming over. And Andres, let us know, what will be your movie that you're going to take away from someone? Who are you going to piss off today by stealing this movie from them for Cinema Condition Season 3?
I want to, okay, don't be mad at me. I don't know if this was on the list. I'm trying to think about it again if I saw it. But
I'll let you know.
Can I dib Nightcrawler? Is Nightcrawler on there?
Nobody has chosen Nightcrawler yet.
Nightcrawler. Give me Nightcrawler. That's another capitalism movie. It really is.
I know. Hey, you know my taste real well. Whenever we get a movie that we can, dunk on capitalism, we can. You got to pick them.
Yeah. If you see that movie, that'll shake you up, man. Yeah. Have you seen Nightcrawler? Yeah.
I have not seen Nightcrawler yet.
Really? Oh, yeah. I'm so excited for you to see this.
Yeah, I think I'm actually gonna watch it in like a couple of months, because hello, patrons. Let me give you a little, a little sneak peek. Brad wants to choose Nightcrawler for the next round of polls that we do for our movie commentaries.
Cool.
We might be doing that for the patrons. So, yeah, and also I've heard great things about Jake Gyllenhaal in that film, and of course Dan Gilroy's direction has always gotten like buzz because of that. So, you've heard it here. Andres will be choosing Nightcrawler for the Cinema Condition Season 3. Sorry to anybody else who wanted it, but Andres got it, and that's the fun thing about this, because somebody will come up to me and say, "Hey man, can I get Nightcrawler?" Sorry, man. Andres already got it. You can't take Andres's pick. He stole it. Yeah. I know that Sabrina definitely disappointed somebody who wanted a short-term 12.
Yeah.
But yeah. Andres, thanks for coming on, man. Once again, you know, not to sound like, you know, I'm sucking up, but it really is an honor to have you on, man.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
I really do. What's it called? I do respect how much you want to put our people on the screen, and how much you want to give our people a voice and allow them to come on shows and stuff. So it really does mean a lot to have you on here. And also how, you know, what's called, you're from around the area that I'm from. So like, shit, that means a lot. You know, what's it called? It's great to talk to someone who grew up around where I grew up and understands the constant struggle of the identity crisis of living in the border.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, of course, man. I love that, and obviously that's definitely the case for me. And you know, Lord willing, everything goes well in LA. I still have a possibility of putting myself in a position where I have the ability to hire Latinos and hire people from different backgrounds and give them a different voice and an opportunity. I think that's the best way to create change. So
it's what
the best I can do now is talk about it. So hopefully I'll be able to actually make movies about it eventually.
Yeah, man. It's like what I said throughout all the time that I was, you know, promoting before I leave. You know, I got tired of asking for representation. So I say, you know what? Let's go ahead and give it. Let's go ahead and see what happens when we try to do it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So Andres, you want to let the people know where they can find you, bro?
Yeah, man, you can find me at Squad Leader Ace on Twitter and Instagram, and obviously my YouTube channel at First Cut. If you just search First Cut on YouTube, it should pop out eventually. And follow us on social media at First Cut TMO. All
right. They're on Twitch as well and all those wonderful platforms. So guys, go and show them some love. I've told you all, these guys are my favorite. It's called YouTube channel. I love these guys. I've been a fan for as long as I've been here, as long as I've been watching these people. And please go and show them some love. They're damn good at what they do. I'll tell you that for sure. You know, they're so good at what they do, and I'm glad to have been on the journey of watching all this content. As always, you can find me at the Nerdy Chicano on both Instagram and Twitter. You can check out my website, raulemendoza.com, for my photo and video work. You can look at all the stuff I do on there. You guys can go and check out my link tree, the Nerdy Chicano. You can find my YouTube channel on there, my Twitch channel. Guys, go and check that out. I've launched I'm trying to launch my YouTube channel again. Well, not again, more so like I'm trying to add more content to it, because my YouTube channel is basically the dumping ground for my short films and stuff like that. But I want to go ahead and give you guys some more content there, because let's be honest, we're stuck in our homes and we don't know what the hell to do in here, and might as well make some sort of content for you guys. So go and check that out, drop a subscribe and all that, you know, that wonderful stuff. And of course, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for the constant support on all the other episodes. It's been a lot of fun recording these episodes for season 2, and we're going to keep going. Next week, we should have the wonderful Charlie Jones coming over to talk about El Verdugo, the Executioner, from Jose Luis Berlanga. And without further ado, I don't have an outro for this show, and I should probably have one, 7 episodes later, but I don't have an outro. So I'll just say, I'll see you guys next week when we talk with another guest and we talk about another movie, not moody. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day wherever you are, and we'll see you guys.